Not everything has a deeper meaning. Sometimes the curtains are just blue. Curtains are not just blue, and I can give you the Devil Wears Prada speech, like if you really want to get into it on that level. But also, media doesn't exist in a vacuum. Media does not exist in a vacuum. Nothing gets made or conceptualized or created in a vacuum. Also, you don't have to just consider the external history of a piece of media. You can also look at its diegetic history. You can think about the way that history is conceptualized in world, especially with fantasy and sci-fi, because that also consistently says something about the way that that piece of media was conceptualized and made. Part of why I do not put stock in the idea of the death of the author is because an author's personal experiences and general surroundings influence their work whether they would like for it to or not. That's also the reason why I don't talk about Harry Potter on here very much. But also, media that is not necessarily trying to comment on the context in which it was made nevertheless reflects that context. Sometimes it even provides a lens that the more intentional commentaries actually end up missing. Really great example of this is The Lord of the Rings. Tolkien swore up and down that he did not write that trilogy as an interpretation or an allegory for his experience as a soldier in the First World War. And then he swore up and down that he did not write it as an allegory for his experience as a veteran of the First World War, then living through the second one. He did write a really excellent letter where he got, real annoyed at the Nazis for being Nazis, but, In any case, the parallels to his experience as a soldier and a veteran are there anyway. Whether that's in the fallen soldiers who are just interred forever in the dead marshes, or the way that the Shire, the utopian pastoral home worth fighting for, doesn't escape unscathed. Tolkien might not have been trying to draw that parallel, but it's not a difficult one to find. And that's a piece of media that wasn't trying to say something like that. Putting aside that almost all sci-fi ever is a conversation about the human condition, and putting aside that dystopia does not predict the future, it extrapolates from the reality that we're already living. Let's talk about a fantasy set in space instead. Let's talk about Star Wars. Again, we're not messing around with death of the author because George Lucas said it. George Lucas said there was a deeper meaning, and then he outright challenged fans to find it. So I'm going to keep talking about how Star Wars functions really well as a discussion of military overreach and about how people and governments who believe themselves to be listening to the will of the people can find themselves backsliding into literal fascism. And it's a useful discussion on red pilling. And also, on that note, I'm going to keep talking about Star Trek as a piece of media that's deeply rooted in the idea that humanity can do and be better as long as we remember that we're part of something greater than ourselves. Have a little critical thinking, please.